In the name of God, the most gracious, the most beneficent. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to the National Conference on Family Business Sustainability. Today, we are in a session that will be speaking about the management of disputes and conflicts across the family business sector. We have a keynote speech, Dr. Rانيا Lubki. She is associate professor in the management business administration, and she is also director of the Council Center of Family Business. She has conducted different research papers and articles across the different family sectors, issues relating to the emotions like dynamics of family business. We also have Dr. Bsmة الزامل. She is the general director of the human resources of الزامل holding company. Also Dr. Bsmة, she has a PhD uh, uh, in the family business relationships, particularly in relation to the disputes and conflicts and of the family business, with a special focus on the role of women in community and the business family and the family business sector. Today we'll be speaking about the disputes and conflicts. First, this is an introduction. My name is Muhammad Bataji. And after that, of course, we will have Dr. Rania speaking about her own presentation. And after that, we'll be speaking, also we'll have like a comment by Dr. Bsmة, and also we'll have a panel discussion. Then we will open the floor for more discussions, more comments or inquiries, and we'll be very happy to have this kind of robust engagement. Today's session, or this time session, will be speaking about, of course, about the disputes and conflicts, which is part and parcel of every cycle or life cycle of the family business, and how to avoid such kind of disputes and conflicts. No doubt that the disputes and conflicts, of course, in the family business have a different nature, simply because they do affect the family business, the family and the corporate laws. Today, Dr. Rania Lubki will be speaking to us about the different forms and manifestations of disputes and conflicts, what types of conflicts and disputes, and how to approach and address such kind of disputes and address these kind of disputes and conflicts. Also, Dr. Bsmة will be speaking about this or commenting on this issue on the local context. So the floor is to Dr. Rania, and the floor is yours, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your introduction. Thank you also for the participants, the audience. I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude for the National Center for the Family Business Sustainability to invite me to speak about this important issue, which is the sustainability of the family business. I'll be speaking about the following points: the introduction, the types of conflicts and disputes in the family business, and how this might affect, of course, the intervention strategies, and also, and at the end, the conclusion. The only thing that we know is, and it goes back to different stages, which is change. Change is a constant thing that never changes. We always have this kind of change. This is said by Hercules across the different sectors such as digitalization, environmental and ecological challenges across the global level, and also the compromise issues, the values, and the values between man and woman, the social and economical equalities and inequalities, and also at the level of the COVID-19 pandemic. We well know that across the community or society that people change over time. This is, as you see, the series or the lifespan or the journey of our life. But the question is how such kind of institutions or combinations sustain or remain sustainable. Are they or do they sail against or with the wind? If we take into consideration that the institutions that go in line or go for more than 1 century, we can say that such kind of institution and corporations are family business or businesses. They have a special nature. How over the course of time, they have been able to adapt to these changes or modifications or vicissitudes of life. Are these family businesses institutionalized or institutional? As I said, they have a special peculiarity or specificity, and they develop over time, over the course of time. Even with the COVID-19 pandemic, Credit Suisse research revealed that these family businesses have outperformed other businesses in certain sectors and in certain regions. Of course, they are long-term businesses when it comes to their own investments, and they also have also sacrifices by their own members in order to sustain and to continue and to make things successfully growing. So what is the common ground between the family businesses? Of course, it consists, family business consists of different, very much like any kind of companies or businesses. There is a ownership, property, but the family business is a law that plays a vital role in the success. So we can say, or we can compare the family business law, which looks very much like a solar system, and the family business plays such a great role in making it more sustainable. So a family business is different from one another, and these, of course, laws do affect each other. In order to well understand the family business and how they can be more sustainable over the course of time, we need to take into consideration the different interactions of the laws. These systems or these laws over the course of time, of course, go and sustain different problems or disasters, not just financial ones, but there might be, for example, like the family business laws or the corporate laws or responsibility and accountability laws. We can identify different types or manifestations of disasters and crises in addition to the financial ones, such as like health-related problems, morals and ethics-related, relationship-based problems or disasters, identity and financial, which of course impact the relationships of the business, the family business. Sometimes these kind of crises or disasters come into play because of different conflicts. Sometimes these kind of disasters and the crisis create a gap between the family business relationships and also the organizational structure. Disputes are a real danger for the continuation of the family businesses, and also the rate of continuity of the family business is 30% of the first generation to the second generation, or the succession of the third generation to the second generation, 10% from the second generation up to the third generation, and 4% or 1 to 4% up to the fourth generations. This is the family business succession, of course, some of which, of course, fail, and some others are merged or acquired or sold from due to the succession from one to another, some of which fail, some of which succeed due to disputes. Gucci, Lacoste, War, the Wall Street Journal are companies that have been sold due to the conflicts or disputes, while others have been able to overstay or outdo or outlive other businesses or other family businesses so that they could easily succeed. Now, speaking about the different types of disputes relating to the family businesses, we have to take into consideration that the dispute does not happen in the family businesses, but it is part and parcel of all the ecosystem of any family business or any family. But at the same time, the family businesses are such a breeding ground for such kind of disputes. So what is special about disputes in the family businesses? The nature of the disputes. Well, a dispute arises when one considers internally or externally that their expectations do not go in line with their family business members. A dispute may arise, of course, due to different natures. There are some that are related to management and administration and strategies, while other disputes are more related to the human
بين أعضاء العائلة. الخلافات التي تتعلق بالإدارة والاستراتيجية نستطيع تصنيفها بنوعين. أولاً تضارب المصالح والمهام.
First, conflict of interests. This is the first type. It goes around the following questions. What are the objectives that should be followed up or should be realized in the family business? Therefore, there is another objective of a family business which can, of course, realize or can follow up closely or can seek to realize. The first of which is to enhance the financial values. This is an objective, of course, which is great for different family members. So there is another objective which goes around enhancing the social value and the emotive or emotional value of a family business. So when we speak about a social value or emotional or emotive value, in this case, we are speaking about maintaining harmony and cohesion, homogeneity, the fame of the family business, the reputation, and the different options, the different practices, of course, adopted when it comes to a meeting or conducting a meeting. The family members need to ensure that their interests are well honored, well observed, and do not conflict with others, with the other objectives of the family business and how it can be or they can be realized. The second type of conflicts or disputes relating to the family business, relating to strategies and administration or management, is the conflict of the way of implementation or the manner or the mechanism of implementation, which we have a question that is pivotal, which is how we can enhance and realize the objectives agreed on in the family businesses. There are two key objectives, but at the same time, the realization of the objectives goes through different themes and topics. The family members do not have to have a conflict how such goals can be implemented or achieved. Speaking of the financial decisions such as innovation, business model, or also enhancing investment and returns, or withdrawing investments, or like distributing shares, or allocation of shares. There are like this, financial decisions, but also there are decisions on the delegations of powers or delegations of authorities, for example, like the independence or dependence of an heir or heirs, and how to plan or how to publish and announce the intentions of the transfer of ownership and property. The final one, which is how the management succession across the different generations and how the succession of administration outside the family. These are the different types of conflicts and disputes which are very important to be well examined, well studied, it's well investigated, and will be taken into consideration in order to avoid any kind of problems that might arise anytime. So when we speak about the conflict arising from the implementation manner or methods,
المصالح. الخلافات التي تتعلق بالعلاقات الإنسانية هي خلافات عاطفية، وهذه الخلافات هي أيضًا عديدة. نستطيع تمييز
So we can distinguish the different disputes based on the different standards, emotional standards across the different generations and the family members, such as expressions, for example, or emotional expressions, or how to express, for example, emotions within a framework of. Also, some people like express their feelings or emotions negatively or positively, such as like anger, repentance, guilt, happiness, love, compassion, and so on. Also, there is a kind of conflict between the implicit and the explicit feelings or emotions of the family members. We can also say distinguish another kind of difference or another kind of difference at the level value or the understanding of the values across the different generations. Across the Arab community, there are three key values, which is respect, duty, and the courtesy or compliment. How these values can change over time, over the course of time, for example, from one generation to another generation, particularly when it comes to such generations that seek their own their education from other non-Arab countries, like how to show this respect, how to show, for example, other values, or avoiding communicating with other people. The final point, which is related to the emotional conflicts or disputes, such as the strong relationship or the weak relationship across the different family members and to the family and across the different family members. These are the different types of conflicts and disputes. Of course, their management and the administration have different impact on the family members, that the factors affecting the family business relationships are negative, of course, and positive ones. So the conflicts and disputes are not always destructive. Can be sometimes constructive. It depends on, based on Kozer and Harfi. So conflicts and disputes can be a hidden power to enable, to empower, to enhance the family business, to give it more power, more energy, more resilience, more stamina to go and to be more sustainable into the future. Constructive disputes and conflicts can also be a weakness, a vulnerability to the family business, affecting, of course, coherence, performance, and cohesion of the family business. The disputes and conflicts, of course, affect the types of or the nature of the decision-making mechanism and policies. Of course, disputes relating to the strategies and management can, of course, have positive effects, because simply they can help the family members to reconsider the decisions taken or to be taken, or the operations being adopted or to be adopted, which positively impact the decision, the quality of the decision-making mechanism, and also enhancing the performance, while at the same time, the disputes and conflicts relating to the human relationships, such as also emotional relationships, impact negatively on the performance of the company or the business family, and also enhancing the quality of life, while at the same time, the emotional disputes also can negatively interact with other disputes relating to, say, right, like strategies and administration. Equally important, as I just said, it is very important. The impact of this influence can vary depending on the time, place, and the people. Time factor is very important, and we have to take this into consideration based on the business models or based on the emotional business models. While at the same time, the type of the relationship of the family business relationships also play such a great role. Business family business can be of different types and natures based on the level of interactions or emotional interactions between the family members and the businesses. Some are separate or standalone or independent businesses, while some others do not interact, and some others are very much interrelated or overlapping, and in terms of the emotions and feelings, while some other family business are balanced, where the emotional interactions is balanced and is not overlapping a lot. So the difference changes based on the interrelationship or the emotional interrelationship across the laws or the corporate laws and the family business laws. So we need to understand the impact of these kind of disputes or conflicts. Over time, family businesses can make progress and make changes or development, and can change at the level of the emotional business model. In the first generation, the family businesses can be overlapping. Second might be balanced, while the third generation can be separated based on the nature of the relationships or family-based relationships. There is one more dynamics, of course, when it comes to the conflicts and disputes across the different family businesses. The life cycle of the family businesses, when it is still in the infancy stage or the inception stage, and where there is kind of succession for the family business, such as like the partnership with different family members, such as brothers, sisters, or sons and daughters, it becomes like more or stronger. But when it comes to the second generation, to the third generation, such as like, for example, uncles, aunts, there might be a higher degree of threats, simply because the risk might be higher when it comes to the second and the third generations. That might be like conflict of interest or emotional disputes and conflicts which can affect the sustainability of the family business. Therefore, the family members should take this into consideration, the life cycle of a family business when it comes to ownership or property, and should take the proper and wise decisions in order to avoid any kind of imbalance or disturbance, and to make early intervention in order to avoid or at least settle the disputes. What are these kind of intervention strategies in order to avoid any potential or existing conflicts and disputes? They all go around communications, networkings, which is a key to avoiding these kind of conflicts or disputes. There are different strategies, intervention strategies, and the research studies, of course, refer to the fact that the family businesses are distinguished by 6 strategies that are very efficient and effective to solve or settle the disputes or conflicts arising from the family business relationships. First, consultancy, the legal consultancy and the administrative consultancy. The second one, governance of the family businesses, psychology, and family-based approaches and treatment, and also the emotional manager of the family business, and also learning from other family businesses, and also the emotional manager, and also the spiritual guidance, mentoring and coaching, or religious coaching and mentoring, where they can depend on each other and benefiting from each other, learning from their experiences and expertise to choose, or one of the most important strategies for them that work well with them, that can be very similar, very efficient for such a family business. First, the legal and administrative consultancy advisory. the expertise and experience of a consultant, a legal or administrative consultant, is very important when it comes to, particularly when it comes to the issues, for example, the issues of his or her expertise relating to the family business, such as like a law, an attorney firm or a law firm, like can be a family business consultant or corporate consultant. So again, the experience or expertise of the consultant is very important. It plays such a great role in the family business ability to settle the disputes arising or potentially arising. So experience is very important. Equally important that they should be multidisciplinary team comprising of consultants, that they should work in tandem on unison for settling the disputes or conflict arising from the family business activities, particularly when such disputes and conflicts are transitional or temporary and can be solved in a much easier way other than taking each other to court. And sometimes these kind of consultancies are not always available or are not always made available. That is why the family business can make their own conclusions. The second strategy, which is governance of the company, of the family business, and how this family business can adopt governance. Of course, it can provide a framework to study and to examine the disputes, for example, alternative solutions, results, and also how to overcome such kind of disputes. This kind of framework is very important. What is governance? There are different frameworks of governance and different mechanisms of governance for the family businesses. We will, of course, we will be speaking about some of these kind of mechanism or dynamics. In brief, there is a kind of agreement of the contributors based on the contract or agreement, and this kind of family business contract or agreement helps, of course, the stakeholders or the shareholders can help them to solve or settle the disputes. Of course, also the existence of a law or a constitution of the family business can help them. They help them as a document for the family members to refer to, as a reference to refer to. They need to study and they need to develop with each other, I mean, collectively. And after they need to agree to certain points, for example, how a dispute arising, how it can be settled and solved. So any disputes or conflicts arising can be solved or settled by referring to the laws or constitutions as agreed upon. As I said, this charter or this document or law, it has an ethical and moral value which should be observed and honored, along with the legal value that should also be committed to. There are other frameworks that can be adopted, such as the board of directors. When we speak about the governance of the family business, there is also other frameworks, such as the family-based council or trustees and the wise experts council and the upcoming generations or the coming generations committees and the family association and the charity or the charities. They are very important in order to facilitate communications and networking across the family business members and across also the family members and the family business members. Hermes, represent how the role of the agreement of the stakeholders to settle the disputes and strengthen the relationships of the family business members. Choosing the governance framework is very important. It depends on the root conflicts or disputes and the characteristics or nature of the family business, and the family business should not adopt or implement all the frameworks. It should wisely choose the framework that is most appropriate for the life cycle of the family business, and also the framework that they want to adopt over the course of their time or over the course of the family. Equally important at the same time, these strategies, of course, can be inefficient in certain cases or occasions, because the family business simply is very much like an iceberg, most of which, of course, there are disputes, big disputes or conflicts, but are not apparent, are not explicit, very much like an iceberg, where many disputes and conflicts lurk behind the waterline, and of course can trigger negative points and can fuel and trigger the performance of the family business. That is why there are different strategies of different nature to settle the disputes or even to help avoid such kind of disputes. So the family-based remedial solutions in terms of the psychology and in terms of the family-based psychology, the family consists of different connected things. All of them, of course, help the performance, the maintenance of the family. This theory helps us, of course, to take into consideration the different or the severity of conflict and disputes based on the family nature and based on the nature of the dispute. So when a dispute arises, so our mind becomes blocked and attitudes becomes blocked and reasoning becomes blocked as well. So it is very important to motivate the mind when a dispute or a conflict, of course, motivates it, so that we need to overcome such kind of disputes or conflicts. And also there is kind of psychology based solutions, and they can play such a good role in overcoming these issues, and also deactivating the disputes in some other times, of course. So we need to study the history of the family. Why? Well, simply because we need to understand their background, so that they need to free their mind, they free their negative ideas, so that they can come to a common ground to solve the solution, to solve their problems. As I said earlier, in the present and in the past and the future are all very important. We need to understand the past and the present and the future. We need to understand the past in order to understand the present, and we need to understand the present so that we need to understand the future. We can help them to avoid any potential risks or problems or disputes that might arise anytime. So we need to understand the history of the dispute of such family members, so that they can understand themselves in the present and they can themselves in the future for upcoming generations. They need to take the expertise and experience of the past into the future, then into the present and into the future, so that they can use these kind of expertise or experiences across the different segments of time. The fourth strategy, which is learning from the experiences and expertise of other business families, along with the subject matter programs. As you know, there are different institutions specializing in family businesses, and there are conferences, forums, events that are conducted where the family business members can attend and seek to attend, so that they can cope up and can gain more experiences and more expertise, of course, how to settle disputes. There are also other educational curricula across the different schools and universities designed especially for family businesses, and these curricula, of course, can also provide the family business ideas and how to enhance their performance and avoid any problems that might arise anytime. These events, these forums, conferences, seminars can help a lot, can also help the family members to come to an agreement or to come to commonly agreed principles, among which, of course, we can highlight we can highlight the different communication methods that are most appropriate for the family business family, such as like enhancing and honing and polishing up their skills, like communication skills, opening up to others, and also which of course we can provide the family members the ability to communicate with others, avoiding of course the negative messages, whether orally or in written forms, which can of course convey negative feelings and emotions and can impact the disputes and conflicts, the severity of the conflicts. Also looking for different options or alternatives, and also communicating with like providing positive notes or feedback about the problem that has already arisen. These principles are very important, and the implementation of which is also very important. Sometimes these principles coming into play of course can be supported by the law of the family business or the constitution of the family business. The family emotional or emotive director or manager, in most of the family businesses, there should be an emotional director. He or she does not have an official role other than a non-official role. This kind of role is mostly played by a woman, like a grandmother or an aunt. So research studies reveal that a woman or women, generally speaking, in family businesses, they play a good role in settling the disputes and solving the disputes. So this is a strategy that is non-official. I mean, that is unofficial, but we have to take it into consideration because women can help their family businesses navigate crises, particularly once crisis come into reality, they can help a lot. The final strategy which we can talk about, which is the religious and spiritual guidance or mentoring or coaching. Of course, spiritual and religious values can play such a great role to further help the family members solve and settle the disputes. And also provide remedial solutions emotionally for any kind of family business disputes or conflicts. So this is a strategy that we are not speaking a lot about, but research studies reveal that this is an important strategy that we have to take into consideration. These are quotations cited from a group, of course, Alessandra Neshala Jacta group. She is responsible in the Brazilian, in the third generation, of course. This is a company that I would like to draw your attention to. This is a quotation that is very important. Widely cited, she used the different 6 strategies, and these strategies are very efficient to further help the family business members to avoid any conflicts or disputes and also to settle any disputes arising. Alexandra Nishimura considers that the family members need to strike a balance, particularly the emotional impact or influence for the family business members, particularly when a conflict arises or dispute arises. So instead of using I, we should use we. Instead of using I, we should use we. And also, if the family members cannot help, of course, peacefully solve the problem, then no other people can do so easily. So it is very important to avoid disputes and conflicts. So the family business should take into consideration, based on the characteristics of properties of a business, nature and the life cycle of the family business, and also time factor is very important to be taken into consideration. Also, I would like to refer to key quotations by Gibran Khalil Gibran, by his book, or in his book وهلأ لوين, which of course can help, where he provides good questions. What are strategies that we have to adopt or we have to put into action and we have to discuss in order to avoid any disputes and to provide solutions to? And also, you are like arrows, and you are like bows, and your children are arrows. So you have to take care of where you are heading and where you are targeting your children into. And also, it is very important, the one who is shooting the arrow should have a clear cut and a crystal clear point where to be, of course, headed. And also the conclusion, it is twofold. It is the conflict, not the harmony, that we feel connected. It is very important to understand how to solve conflict rather than how to become more harmonious, because when you share the way you solve and settle dispute is very important. Your attention is highly appreciated. Thank you so much for your own attention. And I am very happy, of course, to follow up this discussion with other two speakers.
شكرا يا دكتورة رانيا، عرض جميل وكلام جميل. أنا صراحة سعيد جدا.
Thank you. This was a very beautiful speech, and I'm very glad today to be with you. Now I am a PhD researcher. I'm writing my research, and I have used and utilized your published essays in the different scientific journals. And today I'm very glad to have you here, since I'm part of this discourse. Your essays, your works, your academic work and researches in this field are beneficial, whether for researchers or for family businesses. I also want to add something before I leave the room for Dr. Basma. In this topic and on this topic, I liked a number of points. The focus on the positive side and the positive side on family businesses. You mentioned how family businesses proved their strength before the international crises, how they could face. You represented how they could face those challenges and achieve success on different levels. You also have focused on the fact that every company has to know its size, has to know its value, has to recognize its role in family life, how many generations there are, and other things, to know and to recognize the best mechanisms to apply and follow. Also, you've mentioned 6 of the means to deal with disputes before and when they happen. It was a very beautiful talk, because usually we only talk about the technical things. We talk about governance, administrative communication, and we omit out some other social factors. But you have mentioned that, and you have covered very beautifully. And we also have had wide audience. We've had people with experts, or we had also company owners. I have been in many conferences where the goal scientifically and practically was very far, but here we've heard what the researchers and people in the field have been up to. This usually takes time to access, but with you, having you here today, you've given us a lot of information, otherwise which would have been difficult to access and to have. Our personal experiences are only personal, but your scientific and your practical experience are the experiences of hundreds or thousands of companies that you work with. So now we will move to Dr. Basma. We will hear from you, Dr. Basma. We would like to hear something on this topic, what you think. The floor is yours. Thank you, Dr. Ramia. You have covered the whole topic. It was a very nice presentation. First, I would like to thank the National Center for Family Businesses for this conference. Honestly, such topics are usually such topics being addressed in Saudi Arabia by family businesses is something very nice, especially in my field. When I was studying, we had very few studies on family businesses, but conferences like this one and discussions between us will add a lot to the scientific bank and will add a lot also to family businesses themselves. I just have some points that I'd like to cover. Dr. Rania, she talked in general about disputes and she talked. I would like to add to what she has said. Since I have conducted research on my PhD thesis, which included interviews with members of family businesses, in other words, employees that have been working for over 3 years, one of the things mentioned by Rania is the emotional manager. An emotional manager is a very important point. In other words, we can say support, each individual of the family believes that this support is important, whether it comes from a father, a brother, or another member of the family. This support comes indirectionally, and an emotional manager is essential in the company. A family has to focus and has to insist on having a supportive manager. This manager can carry out the responsibilities and can contribute to the success and can contribute to the family relations, especially in Saudi Arabia. In our lives, we have respect for the family and we follow the elderly. We respect people who have um, age and we follow their wisdom. So yeah, this is one of our norms and we have to adhere to it. Secondly, I would also, we in Saudi Arabia believe in something else, which is providing good opportunities for family members. This is very important that we agree. It's very important that they agree on the opportunities provided for family members in the family business, whether by providing work opportunities or providing training, also delegation to abroad. This is very important to consider. One of the points that Dr. Rania has talked about is the communication. Again and again, we in our norms and culture in Saudi Arabia, we don't like to face disputes. We like to set disputes aside and believe that those disputes will be solved over time. But in fact, communication, um, confrontation, or let's say communication, those will be taken and should be taken into consideration. Otherwise, the problem would just get bigger and bigger if we try to avoid the dispute in the first place. She also talked about family office. During the interviews I conducted with the family members, um, in fact, a lot of them did not have a family office. When we say family office, some of us believe, or most of us believe, that a family office has to do with international investment and investing outside. This is part of the problem, but on the other hand, the development the development department has to have a section or a sector for developing family members to have less disputes in there. Most of the things that we try to deliver for the family members would be through the office. Most importantly, we should separate family issues from business issues. So most of the things that we will need to deliver or to inform to a family member should be done through the family office and through the family charter. A family charter is something that has nothing to do with the business. It's separated from the business, and the family office should be the place that delivers to the family members the family charter. This family charter should include the characteristics and the features that should be delivered to the family members without being a direct message. This message should be through the office and should justify why we would like to deliver that concept. So the family charter should be delivered through the family office, which would make things easier and smoother for the family members and for the business itself. It will manifest that business is separated from family in terms of issues. So I believe this is important. The last point that I have is when she talked about
مستشارين اللي هم مختصين بهذه الأمور ووجود أخصائي.
Some companies have experts and have advisors for the family. The whole family knows that this consultant, advisor, or expert can be there in case they need something. He should be there and he should have their position. In those cases, family members will know what points to work on and what aspects to develop in the coming years. Those were just the points that I wanted to add to Dr. Rania's presentations, especially about Saudi Arabia, and particularly that they have been talking about in the interviews I conducted. Thank you again, Dr. Rania. You've talked very specifically. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Basma. Thank you all. Now we will have some questions and discussions, and then we will take the audience Q&A. A point was discussed on this topic, as well as there are business goals, there are family goals. So a family has to recognize its emotional or emotive goals, and that can even be applied to the governance scheme they adopt to make sure that the scheme achieves those goals and attains them. Sometimes we say we can have the company in the public offering. This could achieve the financial goals, but maybe not very helpful to the family goals. And maybe in some companies, not all members or not all family members would approve of that or would know if this would achieve their family goals. Now we will move to the questions part, if you allow us. I will start with Dr. Rania.
الآن يا دكتورة تحدثنا كيف
I
يستطيع
have a
الجيل
question.
الحالي
Doctor, we have talked about how the current generation can avoid disputes, but I would like to know how the next generation can help the current generation avoid disputes, and what can the next generation do that the current generation can't. Now, things are easy, they're brothers, and this generation is on ease, but the next generation is ambitious and has big plans. So what can the next generation do that this one can't? The next generation can play a very important role including educational programs, because the current generation, the next generation, if they study and recognize how a family company can advance with time, they can analyze their family company. And they can understand the positions of the current generation. In most cases, the current generation is not very tolerant. They usually like authority, and they delay assigning the authority to the next generation. That's why the next generation should understand and should be tolerant, should have patience, should take its time, and also should analyze the specific details of the company and of the business. And they can also support the emotive manager can support the family and the family members. This manager can attend conferences such as this one. He or she can attend such a conference to know how to resolve disputes that face family businesses. So the next generation has a large role to play in helping the current generation understand the situation, but they have to have patience. They have to be patient on this. Dr. Basma, do you have a comment? Yes, I do. From my experience, I have one word, is proving yourself, proving that you can be responsible. No matter the situation, every parent sees their children as young and as children, regardless of their age. Every father sees his daughter as the daughter that is a home girl. So yeah, parents can't change their perspectives on their children. So it's the role of the children to prove to their parents or to their uncles, to their cousins, that they are able and that they can hold responsibility. In many cases, some children are successful in companies outside of the family more than companies of the family. Why? Because they get equal opportunities with other people. They don't have the privilege of the family company. But in this case, I can say from my experience that one of the challenges that face family generations is the proving of their capability and capacity. This is one of the points I wish and I hope that all the next generations follow. Prove yourself, work calmly and focus, and you should get to your goal, believe me. So, and at that point, the current generation will see their children differently. I have a comment on your comment, is that family members in family businesses can have their privileges, but at the same time, this privilege is a responsibility, because every behavior, every step, every action that they take is taken into consideration in a different manner than those done by non-family members, because those are family members. So if someone makes a mistake, they would say, okay, so he did this mistake because he's a family member. So at the same time, it's a responsibility as much as it's a privilege. So we have another question for Dr. Basma. In addition to what you have said, since we have this culture in the community, there is a challenge in some families between the current and the previous generation. What are the methods and mechanisms that can be used to overcome the difference between generations? When we talk about cultures, norms, we have huge respect for age in our culture. This point, we should stick to it and we should consider it. Age is important to us as Saudi families. In some companies, you might see that the oldest son does not have the highest authority, and that's where trouble starts. When there is communication, when there is mutual communication between all the siblings and the cousins, etc., then that facilitates things. And when we have mutual communication, mutual respect in the work environment, when all the cousins and siblings are listening to each other and taking equal opportunities in expressing themselves, here we can see that the age difference is okay, but we have to focus on the age difference and see how much it is taken into consideration. As Dr. Rani has said, in some companies there should be very clear training and a very clear training plan for the family members, which would help family members talk and discuss with each other respectfully, and not talk in informal matter, but to talk in a very clear manner, to talk in a professional manner. All those will reduce the issues of communication within the work environment and will help separate business from family. So I believe if those things exist within the family members, again, I say the person responsible for this should be the emotive manager. That would help. Thank you, Dr. Rania. Sometimes disputes are caused by people from outside the family that might be working in this family business. What can a family do to deal with those situations or avoid those disputes caused by someone who might be someone old in the company or someone with history in the company? The importance of values from people outside the family working in the family business, those values should be consistent with the family values. That's why in the beginning, when there are members that don't belong to the family but still have positions in the family business, they have to understand the history of the family, the values of the family, and the family as well has to make sure that this person from outside the family respects those values and are consistent with and that those values are consistent with each other. If the values of the family members and the non-family member are inconsistent, then there would be issues. As well, family members have to trust the capacities of the non-family managers and have to give them the required freedom or liberty in their management authority. There should be trust between the family and the non-family members, and the values of those people should be consistent with each other. Do you think This is a sufficient answer. It's a nice answer, Doctor. Another question for you. We have talked about how each company and how each family has its own procedures based on their views, their size, their generation, their financial performance, the entanglement between generations and family members. Do you think there should be change based on each company's needs? This is a very nice and very difficult question.
هنالك عدة عوامل تؤثر على
There are a number of factors that affect the strategy of interference. Over time, a family learns from its experience and knows what the strategies to be followed are and which strategies are effective and which are not effective. That's why family businesses have to try a number of strategies and document and have to document the history so that the next generation can take into consideration those experiences and not make the same mistakes again and again. There is no silver bullet for companies to apply. They have to learn from their mistakes and learn from other people's mistakes.
شكرا دكتورة. دكتورة بسمة، تعقيبا على بعض الأشياء اللي
Thank you, Dr. Rania. Dr. Basma, as a comment on some of the points you have mentioned, the family advisor, the family office, what can companies with medium financial capabilities do? Because, you know, some governance means are costly. So companies with less capabilities in terms of finance, what can they do? We can say that every family is different in terms of size, in terms of capabilities, in terms of the number of generations. Each generation has a different number of people. All those are important and are of high influence. You as a family should write your own principles, should write your own charter. This is what you believe in as a family. If you go to an office, you can go to an office just for formatting and editing, but in the end, the values and whatever is in this charter is the opinion and the perspective of the family itself. So what I believe is that the family should start doing the charter themselves. They can, as Dr. Rani mentioned, they can benefit and utilize the conferences on the topic, and they can have their own understanding of the family charter. Those things would help them start writing their charter, because it's impossible that you will take this charter ready because you will not read it. You will just have it on the shelf. But I believe you as a family, in the family, there should be a number of people writing the important stuff in the charter and reading it and reviewing it. Then they can take it to a law firm just for revision or editing or formatting, etc. But as a family, no one can know what you are thinking about except you. One of the important things that each family should have is that every 5 years they should have an update for the charter. Many things in the family will change, many things in the country will change, and all this would affect the charters. So the family members should read the charter and should provide their suggestions and recommendations for the update, because it's their charter. It's their charter and it's linked to them. It's not something emotionless. No, it's their charter. Thank you, Doctor. You have answered also my next question, which is uh, is the charter updatable or is it only done once? You have already answered this question. No, updates are very important, and an update should be done by the family itself to have their visions within the charter, because everything that the third generation has given us in our family have been put in the update, and we have updated our own charter. That's a good family link.
كيف يبدأ الموضوع يعني الآن؟
How it starts. For example, the emotional manager, does he or she have to initiate, for example, sometimes the grandfather, the grandmother, or the aunt or the grandfather, like based on the nature, they know well their role. So the question is how they initiate or how they start this kind of role. The emotional director is a person in the family who agrees, of course, to work as emotional director or as a center or the centerpiece of the family if a problem or if a dispute arises. And when they ask like support or seek support or assistance, as you say, Muhammad, in most of the cases, situations can be seen like sometimes the emotional director can be the second generations, can be a brother or a sister or a son or a daughter. So if there is a person coming from the second generation, might be the emotional director. If he cannot see any emotional director, he or she can assume this role, and this person, of course, should be able to or should have these kind of skills such as sensibility, should be considerate, should be able to deeply understand and read and interpret, and can help others to manage their emotions, and also think critically and wisely, like about the values, the spiritual values, the highly appreciated values that can help them further become more more cohesive, more coherent, to come closer, to better communicate and avoid any any disputes coming. This is the spiritual or the emotional director. She or he should, as I said, should be able to transfer the competencies of emotions from one another, and should well understand the values of the families and the history of the family and the partners. He or she should have the information that can help him to be well guided. So it is an unofficial responsibility, of course. So it is a little bit difficult sometimes to assume this role, because we cannot identify or accurately identify the scope of this role. Doctor, your speech and your ideas when it comes to the history of the values of the family is highly appreciated. I well remember in our societies and communities, when it's come to the family members, you see, this is the image behind me, the image of my grandfather. After every prayer, even we live in one building, and he would also pray for us to be well united. So we need to remember this point or issue, and his speech gets into our hearts, our minds, so we can reach good, of course, results and positive results. Yeah, thinking of history, thinking of the grandfather and father, think of the how they can provide us, of course, how can provide us with such kind of efforts. If you allow me to move into or to open the floor for the public, the audience, the participants. Whether to Dr. Rania, how can we mix the founding generation with the next generation? Why why merging or mixing ideas? As Dr. Basma already said, reviewing the law or the ideas based on the nature of the family, based on the time is very important. So the current generation and the upcoming generation need to well communicate and speak one language about the ideas need to be, of course, taken into consideration, and the ideas that should be adopted by the family business, the innovative ideas that need to be, of course, put into action. Now we are living in a global crisis, which is the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is why family business members need to think of innovative ideas. Perhaps they are not traditional, but at the same time, the current generation should take the family business into upcoming or future generation ideas in such a way that can cope. I mean, their business or family business can cope up with the changes, because this is an opportunity for the current generation and the upcoming generation. Why? To share and get engaged in the process of identifying the track of the family business and the sustainability of the family business, because it is a critical stage. So it is not a matter of merging or mixing the two generations as much as the communication across the two generations, like hybridization of the ideas. And thank you so much. And also you can join us tomorrow at 7. We'll be speaking more about the generation succession. I'll be speaking more and more. Dr. Basma, one question by the public: is there an official entity or body for the family business disputes or conflicts? It is always there at the law firms or attorney firms. So the law or attorney firms or legal firms or attorney lawyers, they can support. But I hope that they can understand their problems or disputes before they put it into the law firms. How can a family understand and confine their problems before they put that into the attorneys or law firms? They need to, one thing, they need to, as a family, they need to understand, let's say, that the future plans of the business should be clear-cut. In this case, a lot of problems can be reduced or avoided. Communication is very important. Transparency is very important. Lack of transparency can enhance or can trigger and fuel disputes and conflicts, because when they speak about something and they are not transparent, in this case, of course, it can trigger problems or disputes and conflicts, because simply when transparency comes into play, a lot of problems can be avoided or can be reduced or can be solved. So one more thing, for instance, if I'll be speaking about, say speaking about like daughters, or sisters, it is very important before sisters or daughters can be involved, they need to understand, for instance, the laws, the regulations, what is important, she or he should understand. So before they get engaged, all these issues, all these matters should be well understood by her, so that before we come to problems. Or Dr. Rania, can you add or elaborate a little bit more on this point? A vision that is mutual, a common vision, like what is their mutual or common vision or dream that they'd like to translate or realize in order to work for the same goal, for the same objective, so that they can work for one objective. When they start using one language, heading for one goal, this can help them to reduce their problems rather than just depending on the attorney firm or law firms. Again, at the same time, lawyers, they are ready, of course, to provide support or assistance when disputes arise. But it is very important that the family members should well understand and also should seek assistance from different, of course, different sources, and they should have they should have like good experience and expertise to solve and help settle the disputes. Dr. Rania, where there's one question, these questions all go around one theme. Well, the question is, when a dispute cannot be settled and we don't have an emotional director, what is a good strategy to solve a dispute rather than going to court, or rather than taking this case to a lawyer or an attorney firm? Well, sometimes selling the business or the company is good, and some other times, like the sustainability of the family business should not be at the expense or the cost of the family relationship. So if most of the family members refuse, of course, this may lead, of course, this may, of course, impact their positive relationship. So sometimes selling the business can be one solution. This is one options of several others. At the same time, patience is very important. Seeking patience. So disputes can be settled through patience. This disputes cannot be settled overnight. They need time, they need time. Sometimes disputes take years to be settled, and so that is why a family business can like develop governance strategy for their family business, or can like draw up their constitutions or laws or charter, of course, and they come to agree on certain points for the current situation or for the future situation. The 6 strategies that I have presented to you can be adopted by any family business, by all family members, and they can take this into consideration, that these are not strategies that can be adopted and produce solutions overnight. They are strategies that can help them to be well guided, to be well aided for the sustainability of a business family and for the succession of the generations. Dr. Basma, one question that you already provided an answer to, but again at the same time, it has been repeatedly asked, and I would like you to focus this on this question. The question is there a specific reference where we can take the family business constitution or law? Of course, in the Ministry of Commerce, there is a guide for the family business charter or law. But again, this is something that is family related, but I would like to say, I hope it can be of good value. The family charter or agreement is a big word. It's so big a word, and some people feel afraid of this rather than the book itself. And once we have a charter or a family law or constitution, it's very important. But what is more important, we have to believe in it. It is very important to believe in it. So it is important, or it is more important. It is not the difficult word to honor or observe. No, we have to be able to come to agree on certain points, and then we have to apply. Again, and I say charter or law or constitution of a family business, it does exist in the Ministry of Commerce on the website. Yeah, they mention the most important thing in such kind of law. But yeah, so many family members can choose like the things that are most appropriate for them. Perfect. Thank you ever so much. You talked about the indicative references and guides available at the Ministry of Commerce website, and also you can choose the most appropriate for them. Dr. Rania, there is one more question relating to the development of the family members ever since their childhood on the practice of avoiding disputes or conflicts. Are there any piece of advice or recommendations that you can develop or provide them with, please? Well, the family members need to well understand and need to develop or prepare the generations for the succession, well, simply because this gives them a framework and the conflicts or disputes that may arise relating to the family business and how to settle such disputes. So it is a vital role. I mean, the education plays such a vital role, and that is why we have to put this into action. I mean, this has to come into play ever since they are like still little. I mean, the children are still little. This is my answer. This is a good answer anyway. Can I comment a little bit more on this, please? Yeah, go ahead, please. I'd like to cite my example, but anyway, time is running, as you know. We have a full or a holistic program for the third and the fourth generation. This program, of course, it is indirect, where we can start preparing and developing their generations for the labor market, and they like learn more about this, and they come back with so many lessons that they have learned. So we start with them ever since the 5 years, and we have a plot for them, of course, second, third, and fourth generations, such as training in more than one point. This program, thankfully, we are working and we are seeking that it's coming to see the light and it's coming into play. And we started this like 8 years past. I mean, we started some people and now they are in their universities. And we always say that this program, the purpose of which is that they like the logo. So when we speak about the logo, it is the love of the sustainability of this name. I'm not speaking about anything. I'm speaking about one thing which I need to excel in, is that this name is there always. So if he or she believes in this, he or she will love to continue. All the programs available at the office, all the programs have this logo, and not just because you have deep privilege and part of the family members, indirectly or directly, that you have to go back and you need to support this business directly or indirectly. So the beginning is very important. Ever since they are still little, is a good thing that they need to develop, and it should be outside the family gatherings, like in the different situations. It should be clear cut, crystal from the office should be clear where should be provided by the company for their own future careers, ever since with us or some other people. So all these issues, I do believe, are very important to start as early as possible. I hope that all family members should play this role, and thankfully we see that this program is coming to fruition, and we are very proud of, and I am very honored, of course, to share this experience with you, and I hope to be successful equally with others. Thank you so much. One final question, Dr. Rania, and then one final question relating to the psychological remedy that is family-based, which is difficult to accept. Do you have any pieces of advice or recommendations? For example, when does a person know that such a family or family members need psychological remedy or spiritual remedy, and how to approach this, please? Go ahead.
كل أسرة عندها مشاكل.
Every family has problems, and every family does need a kind of family-based or psychological remedy, which means doesn't mean that they have a deeply rooted or deeply ingrained problems. No, this is something encouraging that people or families should seek these kind of remedies, and everyone has almost a family and they have to seek assistance, and we well understand the history of a family and how such a history can impact or influence on the family members, like in terms of decision making or policy making, or decide on the vision, for example, of the family business, or the future, for example, of the business family. So I do encourage all the family members to adopt this strategy to seek like psychological remedies to better understand what's going on and how to settle these disputes. Across the Arab countries, there is a taboo where we speak about the psychological problems or psychological remedy. But again, across the different societies and communities, something normal, something healthy, something natural. I do encourage families to open up to this kind of trend or orientation because it does help everyone to better enhance the performance, and he or she is part and parcel of the family members at the end of the day. Once his or her performance is enhanced, it means that the whole family members are enhanced and the overall performance is enhanced equally. And the family, of course, members will behave more positively and more naturally. Dr. Basma, if you have any comments to add, please. We can say, as Dr. Rania already said, that this is this issue a little bit like taboo related, and it's not easy to speak about in public. So we need to start like the training courses, the training programs. We provide the surgical consultants and advisors, but we deep inside that we are focusing on this and this and this, but the family members do not need necessarily that they are being targeted. So these issues are dealt by us, of course, indirectly, and by time, of course, we start step by step. So I don't have to come to a family member and I say that you have to refer or you have to seek assistance by a surgical advisor. We can, of course, get him or her involved in this kind of psychological remedy, and we say that this is a trend, and so we say again, tradition, we are governed deeply by our traditions and conventions, but once we have a third party psychological consultant or advisor will help us a lot, because this can help, of course, develop our own attitudes and positions. All these issues taken together or combined together, I would say that we can reduce the family members, the family business problems as much as possible. Dr. Rania, thank you ever so much. Dr. Basma, thank you ever so much. It is such a highly informative and rich presentation and discussion. If you like to take couple of minutes or 1 minute to comment overall, please, Dr. Rania. I'd like to express my appreciation and gratitude for the Center of the Family Business Sustainability and the National Center for Governance. I'd like to thank you ever so much. Dr. Basma for her own participation and engagement. I'd like also to thank all the team members working. It is very hard, of course, to name the people specifically for this big conference. Thank you ever so much also for your own, for the attention of the attendees and the participants. Dr. Basma, please. I'd like to thank everyone, and I would like to thank the National Center for Governance, especially for this great job, for this big conference I'm very proud of, and I'm very delighted to be part of. And I would also like to thank you for your own invitation to be a participant. I hope that I have been of some good help to you, and I hope also that this is the beginning of a series of workshops or like more discussions. Anyone more interested to know more about the family business issues, I am all the people have done their great jobs and have done unremitting efforts. Of course, we as Al-Zamil Holding Group, we are always makes ourselves available to provide any assistance, support, or aid that we are able to. Our doors are widely open, and we can, of course, provide you with our own experience and expertise and our subject matter skills. This is all, and this no disputes will be there, no conflicts will be there across the family members. Thank you ever so much. Thank you ever so much, Dr. Rania, Dr. Basma. Thank you ever so much for the participants, attendees, and the people working, the team, all members working on this forum. So simply put, by Dr. Basma and Dr. Rania, they have shared us and talked about the different reasons of family business issues in terms of the strategies, visions, and how and which approaches to adopt in order to settle the disputes. I always call you to well understand these points and whether like we have common understanding on these issues. And after that, of course, we need to well understand the approaches, the 6 approaches, the strategies to be adopted that we can use, of course, to deal with these issues or to settle the disputes. It is very important to focus on governance and the legal consultancies and the advisory services. There are other four sides that we didn't talk about. Today we did talk about, and I always call you to further investigate, look into, better understand, and make them parts and parcel of the DNA of the family business and the culture and the education and practice of the family business. Thank you ever so much. Your attention is highly appreciated. See you. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you very so much.